office. I guess I'm at the.
Hey, this is Sports Slaw with Lomas Brown, the pro.
And Deb Schneider, I'm the prof. And together, we're the pro and the prof.
I still laugh at that. Laugh at that.
Oh, my goodness. I know. So how are you, Deb? How's everything going? How
I'm
you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we were able to get on, and we've got NFL draft, we've got NCAA changes. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. A lot of things happening in the world of sports, especially the gridiron. So it'd be good.
Yeah.
Let the festivities start in about 2 days. It'd be a new draft class coming in. So it'll be exciting for a lot of teams this year.
Yeah, I think so. And the Lions, looking forward to number 2 here.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I don't know what they're going to do. They kind of hush. I don't know. It's just kind of tough, especially if Aiden Hutchinson gets picked first. Just what they're going to do. That's the big mystery. I know what I would do, but I don't know what the Lions are going to do.
Okay. Shall we get started? We've got 2 great guests tonight. We've got Jehuu Caulcrick and we have Bill Keenist, and I think we've got plenty to talk about.
Yeah. There they go. There they are. Yeah.
So I think the really big news, besides NCAA and Mark Emhart leaving in 2023, that's NCAA stuff. But on the draft, Detroit, 2024, Detroit gets the draft. 1 million people descending on the city. What do you guys think?
I think it's awesome for Detroit, for the region. The reason why the draft is so coveted is because, quite frankly, of the focus and the economic impact it gives a city. I mean, There is no event like the draft, period. The buildup. I mean, it starts with the playoffs. I mean, there's draft talk in Detroit when the Lions get eliminated from the playoffs. Yeah. And that's probably consistent with every city, every NFL city. And it just builds up. And the way the NFL has made this as big as, like I say, any event, I'm not talking about a game, I'm talking about an event, is unparalleled. And the focus of the sports world will be on Detroit that week. And then, as we've talked on and off air, just the economic impact for the city is going to be outrageous. Outrageous.
Are you guys going to miss the COVID draft, though?
You know what? That's a great point.
I loved it. I loved the COVID draft. I loved being in everybody's living room.
The emotion, the genuine rawness of some of that was spectacular. I agree, Deb. That was special. That really was.
Lomas, Jehuu?
No, Jay, you on mute, Jehuu.
This is my first time doing this.
Ever done a podcast before?
Right. No, like I said, I personally will not miss the COVID draft. Like Bill alluded to, this draft coming to Detroit, going over a big football city, like Green Bay was in the run-in to get the draft as well. And Detroit, was selected over it. Big props to the Detroit Sports Commission for getting that done. It's just going to be great for the city. It's something that the city needs. The city needs, people back in there again, because it kind of took a dip when COVID hit. Back in 2019 when the draft was in Nashville, they had over 600,000 people there. And the only complaint that they got were from girls who didn't know it was draft weekend and they scheduled their bachelorette parties. That was
probably not an issue in Detroit.
Right. And, but, also too, with that said, that draft in Nashville itself generated over $132 million for the city. And think about that impact that it's going to have on businesses in the city of Detroit. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. And I remember years ago when cities were vying for Super Bowls, and
Yes.
the economic impact wasn't $132 million. So that just shows what this draft has become. And it's a commercial for Detroit. It's a nationwide commercial for Detroit, and it's awesome. It's gonna leave a mark on the city, and hopefully an even bigger mark on all the out of town guests who find out what Detroit is all about.
Yeah, I think the good thing too for Detroit is that people get a preview this year during training camp with Hard Knocks coming.
Yeah.
With HBO doing Hard Knocks with the Lions. I know people get an opportunity because not only do they look at what they do on the field, but it's off the field too. So I think the nation to get an opportunity to see some of Detroit, see some of the culture around here, some of the things that we're known for just because of Hard Knocks. So it's going to, like you're saying, these next couple of years should be some great exposure for the Lions, for the local economy, just for us in general, as far as the outside, how the outside perceives the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit. I think they get an opportunity to see what we see living here, that it's a great place to be.
Yeah, I think you're right, Loman. I remember so vividly when the Super Bowl was here after the 05 season. And I was in Atlanta when the Super Bowl was awarded to Detroit. That's where the league meeting was, and it was awarded to Detroit. And I worked those Super Bowls in the media center, so I'm dealing with all the national media. And initially it was like, Detroit. I mean, the reaction, quite frankly, was not positive. But I'm going to tell you what, when that Super Bowl was over, the reaction was, gosh, I wonder when we're coming back. And that was universal, because the uniqueness about downtown, there's not many cities that can match up with all the venues in such a centralized location. And then you add the X factor, and that's the passion of our people, the sports passion, just the passion of being good to guests. I think there's a truth to that, and a pride factor. I mean, Detroiters are proud people. When you combine all those things, it's going to leave a wonderful mark on our out-of-town guests.
Yeah, well, if they were excited at the end of the Super Bowl in 05, for it, think about all the renovation that's gone through the city and all that's going to come now. It's going to be even bigger. I had firsthand experience of it. I had some people come into town back in March for the NCAA wrestling championships held at LCA, and that was something that was good for the city. And those people that were from Oklahoma, and they're like, wow, I didn't know Detroit was like this. The kind of thing that you get. Even me, when I moved back to Detroit, I went to Michigan State like an hour and a half away, but I didn't think Detroit. And then I moved there. I was like, wow, this is a really cool city.
Well, I like to think we have a very, very good sports commission too. Because think about some of the events that we've gotten over the years. Starting that, Bill, you go back with the Super Bowl. We gotten some NCAA basketball tournaments here. Like Jay, you just said, the wrestling tournaments. It's a lot of things that the sports commission, and it's made up of a lot of different people, strong people in our community, well-known people in our community, but they do a great job. They do a great job. If we not the finalists all the time, we're in the running for some big event coming here. So that's a testimony not only to what you were saying about the people here, the culture here, our demographics, our geography of where we're located at. But I think we got one of the best sports commissions out of all the sports commissions in the city in different states, because they're the ones that get these big events or these big venues to come to Michigan, to put their eyes on the city of Detroit and possibly have their events here. So they do a great job. They really do.
Yeah, something that goes over us is that they also, back on the props for the Sports Commission, 2020, we're supposed to have the hockey championships here, but obviously that was shut down by COVID. And that was going to be something that was going to be huge, economic impact for the city.
So basically, we put on a really good party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
But being a guy that's not from here, I will say though, people are gonna you guys are all gonna get mad at me right now. But Coney dogs are overrated.
I'm with you, Jay. I'm kind of with Jay.
You're with me?
Be honest with him. I'm
Thank
kind
you.
of with him. I'm kind of a little with him on that, man.
Thank
I
you.
know. Yeah, so I can't even get mad at you about that one, J.U.
Yeah, but you guys are native Detroiters.
I know. That's true. That's true.
Well, actually, is anybody a native Detroiter?
No.
None of us are.
No.
Yeah. Hey, J.U., I'll take the pizzas, I think, over the Coney dogs here. I think,
Hands
man,
down.
for pizzas, I think we got, all of them here. All the big boys are here, this kind of. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you, J.U. I'll go pizza instead of Coney.
Although, Lafayette versus American.
Yeah.
That is a really, really good rivalry.
That's a cool story with it there, but
it is. It is great.
Yeah. Go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say, do we want to talk about the draft this year, or do we want to talk about how the draft has changed? I mean, there's a lot going on, like strategies and where are we going? Detroit's got number 2 pick, and we're going back and forth even before we got on about what happens if. So instead of talking about the players first, let's talk about the strategy.
Well, I think,
do you go for the best?
Yeah.
How do you decide?
My thought, and obviously I'm in deference to Jay and Lomas, the football players, but the way I've seen the game evolve over the last few years, and a lot of this has to do with the rules that have favored the offense, but it's an outside speed game. So the idea is protect the quarterback or get to the quarterback. So I think the pick last year, we talked about Penei Sewell as one of those guys that can protect the quarterback. If you have a chance to get players that get to the quarterback, what a different dynamic that creates on a football team. Changes everything. It makes your secondary better. They only have to cover for a half second less than they might have otherwise because your outside rush is getting to the quarterback. So I think the game has evolved certainly since Lomas came into the league. The left tackle's always been a premier position, but I think it's even more so now. That's why the receivers are at such a high regard in recent years. Look what Jamar Chase did to the Bengals last year. I mean, that young man was a difference maker. So I think the game has changed in that regard, and that's why the focus is on those edge players, those receivers, and even the corners.
Yeah. And I do think, Bill, that's why you see this different type of quarterback now.
Yeah.
They're all looking for these mobile quarterbacks, quarterbacks that can get out of the way. They're not looking for the statutory Tom Brady's anymore. No. They're looking for guys that they can run RPOs with and guys that they can get on the edge and kind of threaten those defensive ends. Yeah. So I do think that everything, I agree with 100% with what you're saying, because guys could get to the quarterback now. They got to get quarterbacks that can get out of there now. That helps the offensive linemen and everything. And you're right, receivers, all that kind of go hand in hand. So because you could see Malik Willis, who's projected to be the first quarterback drafted this year. And what they say about this young man is that once he gets in, when he's drafted, he would be the third best running quarterback in the league once he gets drafted. So that's high praise for a young man like that. And like I say, with me, if it was me and I was the Lions, if Aiden Hutchinson is there at number 2, I'm taking him. But if he's not, I'm getting my quarterback. I'm going and getting my quarterback. I know people are going to say that's a reach at number 2 to get this quarterback. But I'm telling you, if this guy has the upside that everybody says he has, you got to take him. To me, you have to take him.
Jehuu is shaking his head.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I've seen that. I know. I seen that.
I'm not sold on Hutchinson being that guy right now. But I'm going to answer that question that Deb originally posed from a, talking about the strategy side of things from a different perspective. Bill, you and Lomas both talked about the player side of things, like drafting what position you should get and, impact makers on the field. I'm going to talk about behind the scenes because as we all know, the game has changed. A coach, a GM, they don't have the time that they had before to build. Now it's a what have you done for me lately business. You got 2 years, 3. They want is that I call it the millennial syndrome, instant gratification that everyone wants now. You don't have time to build a culture. That like not every team owners like the Rooney family. They're not gonna give a coach the opportunity to build. So these GMs, they have to be in there now saying, what can we do? I think that's where the biggest game is played on draft day. It's in those war rooms. I know teams that have it set. They have, I know just talking to some people in Buffalo with the Bills, the draft board set. They have practices, kind of like debate practice, right now. What happens if, this is our draft board. What happens if this guy goes? Then what do we do? They practice all that stuff now because the pressure is so crazy now on these GMs and on these coaches. And we talk about that. We were just talking off air about it, with the way that the game has changed with betting, the fan pressure on teams and everything like that. So I think, that's, where the game's played really there.
I think that's a great point. And Jehuu is absolutely correct. I mean, if you look at the average tenure for head coaches in the last 10 years compared to 20 years ago, it's probably half, because of exactly what Jehuu said about and I mean, the Lions fire Jim Caldwell, who won 3 out of 4 years. I mean, he's the most winning percentage-wise coach in team history. So, but I do think the Lions may be a little unique because of the 6-year contract that Dan Campbell got. But you're right, Jay. You going into the draft, there better be a clear understanding. If we take this quarterback early, understand. But I love what Lomas said too. If he's there at 2, you take him, and not necessarily that I'm saying that that's the quarterback, but if you were willing to draft a quarterback at 20, okay, why wouldn't you be willing to draft him at 2? Right. If you draft a quarterback in the first round today in this NFL, that thing bugs the crap out of me. Well, 5 or 6 is too high, but we would take him at 20. What's the difference? We're not we're in the rookie weight scale era. So
exactly.
It's a few $1 million.
It is, but it's not like it used to be. When we drafted Matthew and Dominican Sue and Calvin, they were going to get paid more money than any veteran on the team before they played it down. Yeah. So so there were decisions made back then, undoubtedly, where you draft a position, you're going to pay more for a quarterback. Now everything's slotted, basically. There are some unique aspects, the voidable years and all that. But the thing that has bugged me for such a long time is if a player is good enough to be drafted in the first round, you expect that player to be a really good player. So what's the difference? Believe in what your eyes tell you. Believe in your heart and your gut what you see. Don't let the outside noise impact where you pick a guy or where you don't pick a guy.
And that's what happens, Bill. Like you're saying, it's right now, there's a whole bunch of noise going on in the league about this and that. And the bad part is they put out negative stuff about a player, and a lot of times that stuff isn't true just so he can drop, just so they could get him at a certain position or get him at a certain pick and stuff. And a lot of this stuff is unfair. That a lot of these young kids, we got to remember, they still young kids coming into the league that they go through or they're subjected to. So, to me, like I say, if Malik Willis is your guy, and like I say, don't listen, like you saying, Bill, don't listen to the outside noise. No. Take him and hold strong to your conviction.
Right.
Lomas,
Right.
you're talking about putting negative stuff out there, and also going back to strategy. How many negative things do you think are coming from other teams? Just so they don't get someone doesn't get the guy they want.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Look at what happened to Laramie Tunsil a couple years ago.
Yes.
The eve of the draft, that picture comes out. There was that wasn't a coincidence or an accident. That was planned.
Yes.
And that's why, as a team, you have to be strong to your convictions. You have to believe in what you believe or what you say you believe. And you can't let the outside factors, because that's when you make a mistake. But as Jehuu said, teams know right now, certainly the teams in the top 10 with all the variables that what could happen prior to their pick, they have, with a rare exception, they know exactly who they're going to pick and why they're going to pick them. And the one thing I will also add, I think Jehuu mentioned it, and with respect to quarterbacks today, I believe the game has changed in many respects because of the evolution of all the 7-on-7s that kids start in middle school, high school. College is so wide open. I mean, I never thought in my lifetime, my career, that the NFL would be taking stuff from college ball, but that's what's happened. So I think that the players are more prepared, the wideouts, the quarterbacks in particular, for the more wide open offense. And I mean, look what Joe Burrow did. I mean, gets to a Super Bowl in the second year. Russell Wilson. I mean, Patrick Mahomes. It didn't take those guys very long to get it done. But I think a part of that is where they came from, going back to even the high school days.
Don't forget Josh Allen.
Yeah, absolutely. Spoken like a Bills Mafia. Yeah.
But you're 100% right, Bill, with the way that the game has changed. I see it working in this industry that I'm in there with Zenith, but the game has totally changed. And you just look at it this year. This year's draft class, it's heavy in wide receivers.
Yeah.
I would say that this group of wide receivers are guys that can go in and make an immediate impact. And that's what's happening now in the league. Is it doesn't matter if you're a 7th round wide receiver, you can go in and make an impact because they're rolling these guys through, because the game, like you said, is played on the outside now. And so these guys, you can go, you run a go route, you're tired. Hey, the next guy's going to come in. Teams are starting to keep 6-7 wide receivers on the roster, when back in the day that was like absurd and unheard of. They'll keep 10 linemen, 5 running backs, and maybe 4 wide receivers. But now they're keeping these wide receivers, because that's why the game has evolved to.
Lomas, you remember the run and shoot. I mean, when we hired Mouse Davis and June Jones, we turned the league upside down a bit. We didn't have a tight end on the roster. That was sacrilegious back then.
I know.
But you look at
fullback either, right? I don't think we had the fullback.
So there's concepts, and you know what? No, I'll tell you something. I was watching highlights, and you'll remember the game. Unfortunately, remember the game we played against Washington? We had the huge lead, and they came back. I mean, we were up 38-17 in the second half, and they came back. And Rodney was our quarterback. He got hurt in that game. But we ran 2 RPOs for touchdown in that game. We did. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh, my gosh. But Rodney rolled out, and he had the run-pass option. I think he pitched to Barry on one, and the other one he took it in. So, there's concepts from every era of football, and it's what's working today that you see. And what's working today is that outside speed game. And
it's funny you say that, Bill. That was a game where the defense actually played more plays than we played on offense. And normally it's always the offense play more plays. But you're right. We scored so fast.
Oh, I know.
The defense was out on the field a lot. I remember that Washington game. That was an ugly game, Bill.
Oh, that was
ugly
devastating.
Ugly game.
And I remember one series we had the ball. Bob Galliano was in a quarterback replacing Rodney, and Bob was just running the plays that were called, right?
Yeah.
And we had one series in the fourth quarter where we did not take a minute off the clock.
Wow.
And Washington scored with 11 seconds to go. Jeff Rutledge on a quarterback draw. He never ran that far in his life.
Oh,
But,
my goodness.
I think it was like 10, 11 yards. And
Bill
then
remembers everything.
I know.
Well,
I mean, he can do play-by-play of
I
any
know.
game.
I know.
1976.
I know.
But yeah, that and then you remember, Loam, the next day, Monday after the game, Barry carried the ball, I believe, 10 times for 145 yards. He had a draw play early in the third quarter, went like 45 yards to the house. And somebody, one of the writers, Mike O'Hara, might have been Mike, sees Mouse Davis in the offices. It says, Mouse, Barry carried the ball 10 times for 145 yards. Do you think maybe he should have carried more? And Mouse said, maybe he should have carried less.
Oh my goodness! Mouse wanted to throw the ball.
Oh, I know. So
yes,
that I think that game was the beginning of the end for Mouse.
Yeah,
because that was his last year. But yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
I was just gonna say, Deb, even from the standpoint of these players, I'm just happy the NFL or these players have another opportunity now with the USFL around.
Yes.
Yeah.
The XFL coming back. Because before we other than Bill, and Jehuu, when we had the European League or the
I'm not that
NFL
old.
Europe. Oh man, come on, Jehuu. That wasn't that long ago. My goodness. But they had NFL Europe, and that was an opportunity for these guys to try to get an opportunity to get on the team. But I'm just happy now they have more, more ways of trying to catch the eyes of the scouts, catch the eyes of some of these teams, and possibly get on the team a little later on if they don't get drafted.
I think one of the things that all of you have kind of mentioned and danced around a little bit is these are young kids.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm a mom, right? The draft is awful. You're sitting there, you're waiting to be drafted. You're waiting. You don't get drafted. You don't get drafted where you thought you should have gotten drafted. Besides the money and the entertainment, what about, Jehuu, we've talked about this, and Lomas, we've talked about this, the mental health aspects of that. The camera's in your face. How do you react? How do you react if you thought you were going first and all of a sudden you're fifth?
Or how do you react when you thought you were going to be drafted and you don't get drafted?
And you don't get drafted. Not even Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, and that's what Lomas said, why that makes so much sense with the USFL and the XFL. And I did a research project back in the late 90s, and I just took a couple Pro Bowl rosters over a period of years, and I looked at where all those players were drafted, okay? There were more players on the Pro Bowl rosters of those years that were drafted in the fourth round and beyond, or were free agents, were not drafted, than there were players drafted in the first three rounds. I mean, that's alarmingly wow, right? But that just shows. How do you really know?
Except for the 1985 draft. That was a really good one.
Well, there's a story behind that.
The top six, either Hall of Fame or Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, there's a story behind that one.
So I have a question to that. Because I also, so the league's made 70% of the league is fourth round and beyond. Why do you think that is? Do you think there's that hunger level, that that chip on the shoulder, that's why they're play longer, and those guys that are drafted higher with the signing bonuses, the bigger paychecks, that just be like, okay, I've made it, I've arrived?
I think that all plays into it, but here's why the draft is such an inexact science, in my opinion. You're evaluating players, you're looking at their film. You're looking at a player that played in the Big Ten. You're looking at a player that played in the MAC. The competition is different. Okay. So is it a true measurement? Yeah, you go to the combine, but the measurables are one thing. You don't measure the heart or the game ability. So you have young men. The one thing I've always thought of, if I were working for a personnel department, I would look at every backup, if you will, to the top 100 players at the highest level of of schools, the Big Ten, SEC, Pac-10, because those guys, if they weren't playing behind one of the best players in the country, they might be one of the best players in the country. Remember, and the first time this hit me was Roger Craig at Nebraska playing behind Mike Rozier. I was in the USFL and we drafted Mike in Pittsburgh. I got to know Mike real well. Roger Craig became a phenomenal player, but coming out, he was, I think, a second rounder maybe, but he played behind the Heisman Trophy winner. So how many of those guys in college get lost in the shuffle, okay, and they don't get drafted and they fall to the wayside? There are Hall of Fame caliber players, in my opinion, that never got to play. I believe that.
I think it's just it's all about being put in the right situation.
That too, absolutely.
Going to the right place that's gonna have faith in, because sometimes when it gets to that 6th, 7th round, you almost rather be a free agent.
No doubt.
You can choose where you go.
That's very true. That's very true.
How do you explain something like a Tom Brady or a Doug Flutie? I mean, they were drafted, 6th round for Brady. Flutie was 285th.
Well, Flutie was a USFL player. Okay. Donald Trump signed him to play for New Jersey. He's sort of an X Factor type guy. Brady, I think, I don't recall exactly, but some thought Drew Henson was better than Tom Brady, and back and forth in his measurables. Everybody has seen the draft day photo of Tom, that has become iconic really in so many ways. But yeah, that is a good example.
Well, I just think with Brady, I think goes back to being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
in that system that he's in.
Yeah.
Drew Bledsoe getting hurt at the time he did and everything like that.
Think about this. Kurt Warner, okay? Kurt Warner. He goes to St. Louis Rams. Mm-hmm. What if the starting quarterback didn't get hurt in that preseason game? Mm-hmm. Does he ever become Kurt Warner? Lomas, we played the Rams the next week. Mm-hmm. We played them the following week. Who is certain that Kurt Warner will get the chance that he got? He was it for the Rams, and he got to play, and then the greatest show on turf. And like Jehuu said, right place at right time. That was the perfect place for him. But what if he never got that chance?
Yeah.
I bet you there's a lot of good football people that will tell you, you know what? He never would have had the career, because it is about opportunity in so many ways.
And staying ready too.
No doubt.
A lot of times when you get your opportunity, you got to be ready to take advantage of it. A lot of guys don't take advantage of the opportunity that's give it to them. So, like you all are saying, man, when you're given that opportunity, you got to take it. And, that's what Kurt did. That's what some of these greats that you hear about happen. And I do think, Jehuu, what you're saying, you're right, man. Once you get so late in the draft, you want to try to go to where you think is going to best fit you and where you think you could have the most talent at. And, a lot of times a lot of players get drafted. Look at some of these players that change teams and they're just like different players.
Yeah.
They're just like totally different players, so you're right. It's a combination of a lot of things that have to happen right for you, I think, for you to have a good and successful pro career too.
Right.
You guys want to hear a fun fact?
Of course.
So this year's draft, the Detroit Lions have the number 2 pick and the number 32 pick. We'll call that the Matthew Stafford pick, because that got it through the trade there. So with the Lions, this is only the 3rd time in draft history that the Lions are picking in the 30s. And both times, it was 2004 and 2010 that they picked in the 30s. Do you know who they drafted? 2 running backs, Kevin Jones and Javid Best.
Javid Best,
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That is. That's sad. Think about that, Deb. Oh my God. I didn't know that 3 times. Wow. That is. Ooh.
So are we getting a running back this time?
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. I think. How about the Bills and Walker? Come on.
We're set.
We're set.
Yeah. Wow. But you do have to take advantage of those top 3 picks that the Lions have.
Yeah.
If I was the Lions, I'm like I said, I don't believe in Aiden Hutchinson's the guy, the impact guy, right away, because the way, like we just talked about, that the league's going, it's now.
Yeah.
For them, I would trade the pick.
Yeah. I mean, I in a perfect scenario, I agree with you. You got to have 2 to tango, obviously.
Right.
But I agree, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If a team offered you, say, 15 and 18 for number 2, maybe the point evaluation of those picks don't add up. Like, you can't trade number 2. Well, why not? You're going to get 2 players that if you scout them right and you draft them correctly, are going to be studs for the next 10 years on your football team. So yeah, if you can trade back. I remember one year, the last time, I think, we had the number 2 pick going into and Lomas will remember this, going into the 88 draft. And behind us were Kansas City and the Raiders. And they both wanted Neil Smith, the defensive tackle. They wanted him in the worst way. So we danced with them both. Call Kansas City and say, hey, the Raiders may be wanting to trade up to get Neil Smith. Call the Raiders. Hey, Kansas City may want to trade up to get Neil Smith. So all we did, Kansas City was right behind us at 3. We flipped with Kansas City. They got number 2. We got number 3. And we got the 32nd pick in the draft, I think it was. Or the early second round, whatever. It was early second round. And we drafted Chris Spillman with that pick. So you can play. You have to know your competition. You have to know what teams are getting the outside noise and are more susceptible to the outside noise. I mean, there are teams, and in particular, there are owners that are going to listen to the outside noise, sadly, more than they're going to listen to their personnel people and their GM. I mean, look what Cleveland did with Johnny Manziel. I mean, there were people in that building telling them, don't pick him. We can't. Yeah. The owner got, and I think he's even admitted it. He got sort of blinded by all the noise. And they picked Manziel, and, what did he last, a year? I don't even remember. Yeah, man. That was a bad pick for them. Yeah. So you can't listen to the noise. Yeah. No, you're right about that. And even from the standpoint. So my thing, JU, if I didn't need it just depends position wise with me. Like I say, quarterback, I'm staying at 2. Any other position, I'm right. I'm listening to trading down, and picking up extra picks. But I know, like you say, I got that Matthew Stafford pick in my back pocket. I know I got that back there too, and stuff. So that gives me a little leverage too. So I'm like, I'm doing what Bill say. I'm playing cat and mouse with a lot of these teams to see. I know Pittsburgh, they're very interested in Malik Willis. They might want to try to do something and move up, to try to get him. So I'm trying to, I'm trying to cat and mouse a little bit, but if my guy's there, man, I'm gonna take him, especially a quarterback. Yeah, I agree, Lomas. The Rams are the exception to this, what I'm about to say, but there's also a salary cap factor in the draft primarily with the quarterback position. Yeah. Joe Burrow's on a rookie contract, right? Mahomes was on a rookie contract. Some of these great young quarterbacks, Allen and Buffalo, on a rookie contract. So if you can get that right guy under the center on a rookie contract for 4 or 5 years, think what you can do with that cap. Yeah, that cap room with the rest of your team. It's definitely a factor. Unlike it used to be, like I said, when we drafted Matthew and Calvin and Sue, they didn't play it down and they were the highest paid player on the team. That made no sense. No sense.
2011 collective bargaining agreement changed everything. It's huge how important that collective bargaining agreement is.
Yeah, it really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changed. I mean, from 2010 to 2011, you're just done.
Yeah, and we had Sue in 2010. That's when we drafted Indomitian. So and paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
I wanted to go a little bit. So we talked about the draft coming to Detroit in 2024, but so Lomas, now let's think about this now, right? This year you're a kid in college, going to be the number 1, number 2. If you're at the draft, usually the top majority of the first rounders are there in person. All right, you just signed that big contract. Well, you didn't sign it yet, but you know you're going to be a millionaire at the end of the night. Your agent's there who's going to be giving you money, right? If whatever you need. And then it's in Las Vegas.
I know, man. I know, and you know they're gonna bring in some extras too. You already know. It'll be some extras that brought in for that. I know, man. It's gonna be, but I got a sneaky feeling that Bill, how, and Jehuu, you know how they have that. You know how NFL security come in and give you that talk. How they give you that talk and stuff, because they even did that at the Pro Bowl. We out at the Pro Bowl and we had to sit through NFL security telling you, hey man, look, you don't need to go in this area. We got this phone number just in case you get in trouble, and all that. So I know they're gonna give those guys that talk about, hey, you in the Sin City, be on your best behavior. The whole world is watching. It's descended upon Vegas. So it's going to be a lot of things going on out there in Vegas, man,
so if I'm a team owner, the pick is in, that jet on the runway is running, grabbing that guy to my city. Right.
No doubt.
Right.
Going back to the fact these are young kids.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, there have been careers tragically ruined. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but I was just talking to somebody about him a week or so ago. He would have been one of the greatest, I believe, basketball players of our lifetimes. Lenny Bias, Maryland. He was phenomenal, and he was a good kid. I worked in Washington, and I knew people that knew him, and certainly knew the Maryland coaches and that. And he slipped one night and tragically, he died, and how sad. So like both Jehuu and Loma said, those security meetings, they're giving examples of the worst kind to get the message across as strong as they can. And you gotta be smart, man.
And to that point, Jehuu, I mean, just think about what the NFL and Deb, you could speak upon. What does the NFL have to go through to get a venue, to set up a venue, to get a city ready for a draft? All the people, you got hundreds of thousands of people descending upon that site. Anything that happens there negatively, it's going to negatively affect the NFL because it's their party. I mean, just think about some of the angst that the NFL office has to have going through something starting. I guess they've been starting, I don't know how long this has been going on, this preparation. But Deb, I mean, is it extra clauses they put in big events when they do stuff like this? Is it the ways that the NFL try to protect themselves from potential things that can happen bad? I mean, what are some of the things that they go through legally to try to put on something like this?
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to look at the fact that it's a huge event and you have very little control is ultimately what it comes down to. It is a huge event and you can put whatever you want in the contract. You can put all kinds of clauses saying somebody's going to be liable if this happens, that happens, whatever. But the bottom line on any kind of event like this, and pretty much any sporting event, it runs to the PR. It's always what happens, because no matter what's in the contract, if something bad happens on camera, you're done. So as much as protection, I think a lot instead of, you put all the legal clauses in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think realistically, you've got to do exactly what you're saying. You got to have those security guys right there. They've got to, like Jehuu said, you've got that jet running and you're whisking that kid out of there. You've got to make sure nothing happens. And especially nowadays, because I got my camera, right? Everybody's got their camera with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take that video and I can post it to social media in 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these kids are faster than I am on it.
Yeah.
Right. Teams, you gotta protect your investment. But at the end of the day, too, we can say all these protocols will be put in place, the PR, all the talking to and everything like that. But at the end of the day, these are 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. As my grandpappy would say, you can lead a horse to water, but sometimes when they get there, they still take a dump in it.
I haven't heard that one.
I like him. I like your grandpappy.
I need to meet him.
I will say this from personal experience with respect to the Super Bowl. The NFL protocols for events of this magnitude is as good as there is in the world for anything. And Detroit, sadly, I think it's just the reality. If something happens in Detroit, the critics will blame Detroit before they'll blame anybody else.
That's right.
I am confident that our experience with the draft will be as safe and as protected as it can be. That's humanly possible. All the measures will be taken, just like they were taken at the Super Bowl and the Final Four and all the other events we've had in town. The league does. I mean, there are protocols that we'll never know about, and I'm sure Deb can appreciate that reality for all the right reasons. So it's one of those deals where you can't fail. You just can't fail. It has to be right.
One of my favorite things now since 2015, when they started to take the draft on the road and really turned it into a spectacle, is now when they bring out former players to announce draft picks, starting the second round. And that is like, I don't think anyone can ever beat Pat McAfee in Nashville. But you know what? I'm 2024. Like, Lomas, you better get ready. The draft is here.
Yeah, you're out there.
Goodness.
How about Drew Pearson?
I was gonna say Drew. Yeah, Drew eggs him. That Dallas Philly thing, man.
Yeah,
that's tough. So so Bill. So now, who would be my rival? Would it be the Bears? I think would it be the Bears out of all the teams?
Packers.
Yeah, Bears or Packers. Yeah, I think for us, Bill, back in the day, I think more so it was the Bears more so than the Packers for us.
Yeah, I mean, we beat the Bears on that infamous Thanksgiving. We gave the speech, and we beat them out for the division title in 91. Now we beat the Packers out for the division title in 93. But I would say the Bears absolutely,
because we couldn't beat them. My first 6 years, I didn't win. I don't think we won my first 6 years here. I mean, it was rough, man.
It was really rough.
Terrible.
And our first year, Lomas class 85, they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember that final game of that year, our last regular season game, when Robo Marshall knocked out Joe Ferguson. That was scary.
Jehuu, he was knocked out before he hit the ground. He was asleep on his way to the ground. I had never seen nothing like that before in my life either. I mean, it was unbelievable. You're right, Bill. You're right.
And there was, I think it was the following year, we played them on a Monday night, and Chuck Long started for us. And I think Flutie started for them, referencing what Deb had alluded to, Doug Flutie. And
thank you.
You talk about why we hated the Bears. There were more Chicago fans in Silverton.
That's true.
Chuck Long couldn't hear the signal.
That's true.
Couldn't the players couldn't hear Chuck.
Yeah.
And that was just as I mean, do you hate anything more than that?
That's terrible, man.
Oh, that was so bad. But we had our share of success with them. No question, we did. There you go. That game in '85. This might be the play. This might be the play. I think
Oh my gosh.
this is when the refrigerator returned the. No, that's not the play.
Ray
that's a
just
good play.
coming up with something. Yeah, well, at least it's a good play Ray came up
Yeah,
with.
that's good. Yeah.
I did see that first one, Lomas. I was keeping
Oh
quiet.
yeah, hey, look, hey, JU, no, it ain't no need, man. I tell anybody, you played in the league long enough, you gonna get your tail kicked. And Lawrence Taylor, I have no problems with telling, bro. He gave me fits the 3 times I played him. So yeah, man, yeah, it's tough, man. Hey, anybody say they played in the league, I never gave up a sack or this or that, they lying.
Right.
They are lying.
Yeah, I got a few more of those type plays than you do in your arsenal. I remember one specifically off the top. It was my first start Monday Night Football. Ray Lewis ran me clean.
Boom. Yeah,
Ray got you. Yeah, that was the play right there, JU. Look, oh my gosh, yeah, that was. He was out before
he was out. Yeah.
I think the only play that might be worse is Eric Hipple versus Tampa Bay when Scott Brantley hit him.
Brantley. Oh my Lord.
He tried to kill him.
Yeah, his helmet went into the first row of the stadium. He hit him so hard.
Yeah. See, JU, I tried to come back and help on the refrigerator period, but Wilbur Marshall had him lined up, man.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I tell you, we must have a pretty good producer pulling out those highlights.
He does.
He pulls those highlights out so quickly.
Does. Yeah.
That's magic. That's
magic. His new nickname.
Yeah,
that's
magic.
His new nickname. Highlight. Now.
Highlight.
Yeah.
Highlight Ray.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here it is. JU, watch this play here.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the hardest hits I think I've ever seen in the league here.
Okay, you got to call it for our listeners.
Yeah, and then Eric. But watch the replay. The replay gonna do it justice. Yeah, man, I thought they killed him. It sounded like a shotgun went off in the stadium when he hit him.
Yeah.
Just watch the replay. Ray will let the replay, highlighter let the replay go, and we'll see the replay. Deb, don't it look like he hurt? Look how the leg is shaking. When the leg is shaking, when the legs are shaking like that, that hurts. Here it is right here. Get you a good gander. Here you go. Eric Hipple scrambles outside the pot. Here comes Scott Brantley. Scott Brantley has the key on him. Can we please let it go? Highlight. Here comes Scott Brantley. And there goes Eric Hipple and his helmet and the football.
Wow.
Yes.
But you like looking at that play right there, that's how that was shoulder. It wasn't he didn't lead with his head.
Exactly. But he would be suspended off a hit like this. I mean, they would suspend him off a hit like this. And like you said, it's legal. Everything he did was legal, but man, it's just how it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no concussion protocol back then either, huh?
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
The game has changed.
Yes, it has. There he is.
Yeah.
So we've got, the draft has changed. I mean, it was nothing. We were talking about this a little bit at the very, very beginning. It was nothing. When did this draft become such an event that, and part of it, I will say the NFL is phenomenal at keeping itself in the news and being basically the number one sports league. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always relevant. They have created something out of, quite frankly, nothing. Bill, you guys can talk to that probably a lot better than I can, but just watching it from a fan perspective, the draft was, NFL's over. We'll wait till it starts up again in the fall, right?
Well, it used to be
now it's year round. Yeah,
but I remember, I'm sure Lomas does, draft when it wasn't even televised. And, some of the players would find out a day later. I mean, it's evolved and changed as much as anything in our sports culture, I think. And I give ESPN a lot of credit for it. When ESPN came on the airwaves in 1979, they were looking for anything that captured the sports fancy, anything. And to their credit, they grabbed onto the draft, and it became a phenomenon. And I remember, I think my first year with the Lions we didn't even have ESPN broadcast in the draft room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because you can glean information from that. I mean, something, people are talking all the time. I mean, GMs are talking to media, all that stuff about, sources. The sources are usually the source. Okay. And there's a lot of strategic discussions going on between GMs, even owners, and certain members of the national media to get stuff out there. That's an absolute fact. I mean, you look at, with respect to the Lions and almost any team in the league now, when there's a major announcement to be made, a trade, a retirement, whatever it is, who makes that announcement? Yeah. The Adam Schefters of the world. Okay. Yep. The Ian Rappaports of the world, the ESPNs and the national media. It used to be that the team PR department would do a press release and announce it. Not anymore. It's all the national media. So there's scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So the day before draft, there'll be rumors out there that'll be, are you kidding me? I got this from a good source. And the only mission is to get it out there. And then you create that uncertainty with some teams and some GMs. And if you can get the ownership thinking, and they have more input than they should, quite frankly, on a personnel department, then anything can happen.
Well, I think, part of the big thing that the league has really taken off, and, Lomas said it's money, one, and I think one of the driving catalysts to it is fantasy football. Once that became big, I think,
absolutely,
in 2006, it's like when it really hit a boom. Over 18 million people were playing fantasy football, and now the NFL is like, oh well, let's make this a spectacle. Let them see, who their next draft picks will be. It gives a nerd an opportunity to play GM of a team. You know what I'm saying? All those guys, all those armchair quarterbacks saying, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. This is you're running your team now. And so it puts you in that, and now it turns to a year-round thing. So that's why they have keeper leagues, guys that you can keep, to go into the next season. So what are these guys doing? They're tracking them. They're watching the draft. If I'm keeping a quarterback, I'm saying, okay, this team needs to, draft a good lineman. They need to draft wide receivers so I can get the most out of my quarterback. So I think those are some of the driving factors that are making the NFL a year-round thing. Because let's say 5 years ago, no one cared. No one knew when the owners' meeting was. Now it's televised. Now it's everything.
Yeah, there's no question. Fantasy football changed the paradigm. I mean, it created such a different reality for our sport. It created new fans. It gave current fans a different option with respect to watching the game, investing in the game. And I mean, all the fantasy football leagues have a prize at the end of the year, and it's usually money, right? I mean, and now, so I look at the proliferation of social media, of the cable systems and all that as one level. And then you get fantasy football, another level. And then in recent years, quite frankly, legalized gambling. I mean, we can't deny it. I mean, it's taken it to a ultimate level, perhaps. What's the next level? And I think the concern is that what does it do to the in-stadium experience for our fans? You got to be careful, because the at-home experience, especially for those fantasy football fans and, quite frankly, some of the gamblers, it's a great experience at home. So the ownership and the management of these teams have to create a unique in-stadium experience to keep the fans coming.
Yeah. Well, I could say I'm definitely excited about the draft coming here in a couple of years.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's going to be awesome. It really is. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we've got an awful lot going on in Detroit. I mean, that's
I'm starting the petition for Lomas to announce a pick.
I'll sign that petition.
Okay.
I will sign that petition.
Yeah.
Lomas Brown
All right,
2024.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like Bill, like you're saying, there's so much going on. We've got gambling, we've got fantasy football, we've got social media playing into this. We have so many streaming services. I mean, remember way back when we had like three channels.
Yeah.
Now we have all these. We need content. It's like you said, ESPN would have put anything on. We need content, and this is. You can make anything good content.
I mean, it happens almost every year, and I'm sure it'll happen this year when the NFL draft can generate higher ratings than NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs. What more needs to be said? It's outrageous.
Yeah.
The NFL is a phenomenal marketing machine.
Yeah, it truly is.
No question. So, Highlight Ray is telling us that we're running out of time here. So, final thoughts on this draft, guys?
Go ahead, guys.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the Lions are in a phenomenal position because you can easily get 3, premier players, certainly at number 2 and at 32 and in the early second round, and trust your gut, know what your team needs. And the one thing I wanted to add at some point, you always hear the phrase best player available. Well, let me tell you, the truth is it's best player available for us, best player available for our team. So I think there's a caveat there. It needs to be qualified a little bit. Take the best player available for you. And, a couple drafts like this, you create your foundation. It's no different than what we did in 85 when we took Lomas and Kevin Glover. That was our foundation for the next 10 years, without question. Leadership and ability, Hall of Fame talent. That's what set the Lions up for the success in the 90s, without question.
Good point. And I think this leadership with the GM and Coach Campbell, I think they have a vision. I think they have they're on the right path, the right track. There's a lot of excitement buzzing around Detroit football now. So I think they'll do the best. I think the Lions will have a pretty good draft this year. I think they will. Definitely. If I were them, like I said, I would trade down, or I might even go after Thibodeau. But I know we're all talking Lions. We love Lions and everything like that, but we got to right?
And who are the Bills picking?
Who are still here? Right? We just need a couple more little pieces.
Right.
The Mafia is still here.
Well, y'all division is so tough, man. It's just like I'm just saying the AFC, and stuff. It is just so tough with the teams coming out the AFC West, and you guys competing with the Patriots, coming, and so the AFC is tough. It's tough getting out of there, man.
Yep.
So, Lomas, what do you think? Final thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, for me, I just hope they have a good draft there. I mean, that's all I want them to do. Hopefully, whoever they get, they'll be able to come in and make a big impact. That's what the Lions need. They don't need, the guy the draft high and the guy not to have an impact. And I'm hoping, too, that Jeff Okudah, this third pick last year, 2 years ago. I'm hoping that he comes back, Bill, and able to show them what he could do. I think he's getting a bum rap because he was drafted so high and he's been injured. But I like his quality and I like his character. So hopefully he'll be able to bounce back for them.
Absolutely. Yep. Good point, Lom. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know we could just keep talking about the draft, but we're let's wrap it up here. And thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jehuu, and of course, Lomas. So check us out on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and sportslaw.com. And thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, Deb.